Is it simply a coincidence that people are getting dementia at a higher rate in extremely polluted cities where a lot of cars basically shooting noxious gases from their exhausts into the air? Well, no, it's not. Researchers have discovered a direct link between car emissions and dementia. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. I've talked on the channel many times about the enormous health consequences of internal combustion vehicles, particularly diesel vehicles, but also petrol, gasoline vehicles as well. A lot of them include things like heart disease, cancer. I mean, we don't even cover the aspect of noise. Now, noise actually causes significant heart disease problems. The noise from engines, if you live near a freeway or a highway or potentially some sort of busy road, your statistical likelihood of getting a heart attack is apparently 80% higher. So there's a lot of issues with internal combustion, but one of them is pollution. And whilst we've talked about here on the channel, I've mentioned numerous times all the problems with internal combustion, I've never was I aware that dementia is actually being caused in people who are breathing in a lot of these fumes in traffic. Now, if you're predisposed to get dementia, there's a good chance that this is going to accelerate it enormously, which is really scary. But even if you're not predisposed, it can cause dementia anyway. That's kind of scary. Air pollution from traffic is linked to some of the more severe forms of dementia and is a significant cause of the condition among those who are not already genetically predisposed to it, says new research. Research carried out in Atlanta, Georgia, found that people with higher exposure to traffic-related fine particulate matter air pollution were more likely to have high amounts of the amyloid plaques in their brains that are associated with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a horrendous disease. It is just shocking. I mean, imagine the person you care about the most just forgetting who you are. It's terrible. Think about this as well. Atlanta, Georgia. Not exactly enormous amounts of traffic in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, there's a fair bit, but nothing in comparison to places like Shanghai, Beijing, Bangkok, Los Angeles, London. Those cities, the air pollution is significantly worse than Atlanta, Georgia. So how bad is it for you if you live in a really polluted city where there's a lot of internal combustion engine fumes? Well, if it's bad in Atlanta, Georgia, it's probably shocking. The findings will alarm anyone living in a town or city, but particularly those living near busy roads, and these add to the harms already known to be caused by road traffic pollution, ranging from climate change to respiratory disease and even cancer, in the case of diesel emissions in particular. A team of researchers from Atlanta's Emory University set out to specifically investigate the effects on people's brains of exposure of the type of fine particulate matter known as PM2.5. This consists of particles of less than 2.5 microns in diameter, about 100th the thickness of a human hair, suspended in the air, and is known to penetrate deep into living tissue, including crossing the blood-brain barrier. If you can cross the blood-brain barrier, you're kind of screwed, right? The effects of products that can cross the blood-brain barrier are so much greater than those that can't. Traffic-related PM2.5 concentrations are a major source of ambient pollution in the metro Atlanta area. And of course, in other cities, it's far worse. And also in urban centers all around the planet, says The Guardian. The Emory researchers examined the brain tissue of 224 people from Atlanta, 90% of whom had a diagnosis of some form of Alzheimer's dementia, who had agreed to donate their brains to medical science after they died. They also investigated the traffic-related PM2.5 pollution exposure at subjects' homes in the years leading up to their deaths. So there's a direct correlation. The average level of exposure in the year before death was 1.32 micrograms per cubic meter in the 3 years before their death. You don't need much. You actually really don't need a whole lot. We found that donors who lived in areas with high concentrations of traffic-related air pollution exposure, in particular PM2.5 exposure, had much higher levels of Alzheimer's disease neuropathology in their brain, said Anki Hewells, an assistant professor at Emory University in Atlanta. In particular, we looked at a score that is used to evaluate amyloid plaques in the brain in autopsy samples, and we showed that donors who live in areas with higher levels of air pollution and also higher levels of amyloid plaques in their brain are just far more likely to get Alzheimer's, and very, very quickly as well. There was a positive relationship, positive is an interesting word to use here, between exposure to high levels of PM2.5, so traffic pollution, and levels of amyloid plaque in the brain of the subjects the team examined. They found that people with higher PM2.5 exposure in the year before death were twice as likely to have higher levels of amyloid plaque in their brain, which of course means with higher exposure in the 3 years before death, 87% of those people were more likely to have higher levels of plaque. In other words, it is inconclusive. In other words, it is conclusive. This is conclusive data that if you live in an area where you're getting high levels of internal combustion engine pollution, your chance of getting Alzheimer's is at least 50% higher, even if you're not predisposed to it. And that is really, really concerning. Now, the team actually said that this research suggests that environmental exposures like air pollution from cars explains some of the Alzheimer's risk in people whose risk cannot be explained by genetic risk factor. There's numerous videos on YouTube from doctors and experts where they are just baffled. They've been totally baffled and confused as why people are getting Alzheimer's, getting dementia, when they don't have genetic risk for it. They can't actually correlate. Their research is baffling. I mean, for example, Peter Attia, he has a video all about this. He studied this. He has people coming to him who shouldn't be getting Alzheimer's. And he says they don't understand yet why some people are getting it when they don't have the genetic genes for it. Well, this appears to be the reason. Thank you for watching.